This week on What's a Skeet, our guest is someone who's been quietly making waves and is now stepping up to speak out. Tom Lee is a father of two, a tech exec, and the driving force behind Fresh Start Isle of Man, a grassroots movement calling for transparency, accountability and real leadership on the Isle of Man. He's not a career politician, and he's not here to build a party. He's here because, like many of us, he's at a certain point with the same faces, questionable promises, and interesting cycle of inaction. From his family's powerful experience with the island's health service to his professional background leading complex global digital projects, Tom brings a fresh voice and a clear call for change. So, Tom, let's get into it, shall we?
Great, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, no, good, thank you. Yeah,
been having a good week so far?
It's a busy week, as they all are at the moment. A lot of stuff going on in politics outside the Isle of Man that's impacting on work, but
yeah. So I just want to start and sort of get a bit of the basics really to begin with, and ask you, where did this whole interest in politics on the Isle of Man begin? What was the sort of tipping point when you were a bit like, well, maybe something is needed to be done here?
I think it's just, there's been a lot of people moaning for quite a bit of time, and it was one of those kind of situations where I was watching the moans and the same faces popping up, and then the standard comment that people were giving back was, do something about it then. And people weren't. It just seemed like the right time to kind of speak up and maybe try to just, if nothing else, get people talking, and seeing what a conversation can do, and if we can get some interest out there on a topic that is just boring. People are bored of it. Yeah, already.
Totally, man. Do you think people are bored of the monotonous same comments?
Yeah, and I think we look back at the last kind of 15, 20 years in politics in general, and even outside the Isle of Man, you've had 7, 8 leaders in the UK in one party alone that have completely screwed up the UK.
Why do you think they've screwed it?
It was just bad leadership, wasn't it? It was one leader after another, and going from one person that couldn't make a decision to another to trying to correct things with different leadership, and then the Tories completely screwed up everything. Labour have come in and not necessarily done a particularly good job so far, and I think people on the Isle of Man see the news, they get bored of that side of things, and then the Manx politics is kind of the same. You got the Quayle administration that did the whole Manx solutions to Manx problems, and then followed the UK 6 weeks later through COVID. You got the current administration that just doesn't seem to communicate with itself, let alone the general public. Okay,
I'd like to pick into that a little bit. Why, or how do you think they could improve the communication then through with the public?
I mean, communicating in the first instance would be
person to person, or via social media.
No, I just they're meant to be leading the country, right? That's the career that they've chosen. That's the job that's chosen them, and we see occasional glimpses of Alf, never looking particularly comfortable, arms by his side, kind of looking a little bit angsty at times. We've got Alex Allinson, who's clearly kind of positioning himself as the next chief minister, kind of politicking at the moment, and trying to kind of stand up as the big guy. You got a couple of other faces that pop up every now and then, but there doesn't seem to be a kind of concise single message getting out to the public at the moment. It seems to be different kind of camps within Comyn and the politicians that are kind of almost fighting against each other a little bit.
That then creates a sort of unknown environment for the public and the people who it's affecting, I suppose. Do you think?
I think so, and I think it just degrades trust a little bit. I don't think any of them are particularly bad people or unintelligent, but I just think they're not communicating well. Michelle Haywood, great example, the 20 mile per hour thing. Does anyone really not want that in some way? I think, you talk about 20 miles per hour, saving people's lives, slowing traffic down.
Yeah.
In the right place. Great idea. Absolutely fantastic.
There's been an uproar about that, though, on social media, man, and that's some of the problem on the Isle of Man. We have a lot of people commenting about certain topics, but they're not having any action or giving a reason why or how to fix it, and that's a real problem that's starting to occur greatly through social media, I think.
Yeah, and I think Michelle hasn't helped the situation there. I think she's turned something that could have been really positive, and almost by arguing back on social media and kind of biting a little bit.
That wasn't a wise idea.
She's kind of turned something that could have been really good into something that's not so good.
It's not as supported as it should be, really. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's a good initiative, I think.
Absolutely, and I think done right, absolutely not a problem. But I think she's just not delivered it, perhaps in a way that we'd expect from our leaders.
Yeah, no, I'd probably say I think you're speaking sense there. I think there's a good initiative. So, as someone who's not from the Isle of Man originally, how's it been? Obviously, how long have you been here for now?
7.5 years, coming up.
Okay,
years.
so been here for 7.5 years. What was the first thing you noticed when you came to the Isle of Man about the way it was ran?
It's small town politics, right? I think if we look at politics in the UK, completely different. You've got party politics. You've got a conveyor belt of people that are trained by the parties, by and large, from local politics right the way through. You look at an MP candidate for one of the main parties in the UK. They're going to get them at local politic level. They're going to train them. They're going to see some kind of leadership ability in them. And then they're going to put them forward as a candidate and sponsor them. They're going to train them. They're going to teach them how to canvass, how to poll, how to do all of the electioneering, and essentially how to be an MP, how to be a politician. And we don't have that on the island. We've got people that reach a point in their career where maybe they think standing for politics is a good idea, or a couple of people down the rugby club turn around and say, "You'd be good at this. We'd support you." Yeah. And there's no real kind of training or understanding of what being a politician is, I think.
Right, and then what sort of training would they need? What would you want to improve that? Because if you're going to make that statement, then you sort of have to back it up with what would you like to see from someone who is standing for election?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we want people that are experienced in life and can step into that position from a leadership role. But we also need people that are representative of the island. Yeah. So you're looking for a really kind of difficult niche of people that have got maybe a bit of senior management experience or boardroom experience, or have been in that environment, but have also got the support of the community and are in that position. And unfortunately, that's a rare breed of person. Right.
Okay. The Isle of Man is maybe not producing the best type of leaders then, is that what you're trying to say?
I think we're picking leaders that want to be picked, and you've been on the rugby pitch, right? You're a good rugby player. I've heard rumours.
Okay, thank you.
But
thank you very much.
You'll know that from experience of playing sport, and I think this comes out from many different areas of life. The people that you want to lead are never the ones that step forward to lead. They're the
That's
ones
very true.
That have a natural ability.
Yeah.
And on the rugby pitch, it's the person that you're 79 minutes into a game, you need to score a try, otherwise you've lost the game. It's not always the captain. It's just somebody that seems to have that inspirational personality or that ability to get the best out of everyone in that moment and get them to do something superhuman and score that try.
Yeah, like a legend.
Yeah, I mean, legend's maybe not the right word, but it's somebody that's got that spark, and I think it needs that spark of somebody to kind of gel together.
I like that idea. Someone with a bit of pizzazz, something who's going to really push the Isle of Man and put it out there about how good it is here.
Yeah, exactly. And I just don't think we're seeing that at the moment. I think we're seeing capable people in their own right, but I just don't think we're seeing that person or group of individuals that are not so much choosing to be politicians, but are kind of been pushed into it because they need to.
Because it's a career path in a sense, or a future career path. That's quite interesting, actually, because there is maybe a slight stagnation there, isn't there? That sort of feeling. Why do you think that is?
I think people are just apathetic at the moment. We've had a couple of local elections for commissioners and local politics where there just haven't been enough candidates. So we've had people that have been voted in by not being voted in. Was it?
That's not good.
So you look at that, and there's no interest in local politics, and that's kind of moving through to national politics. And I also think people get voted in on the island because of their name.
That's probably something that's linked to island life, essentially, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Everyone knows everyone.
Absolutely. And we almost need to kind of get talking now and getting people involved and getting a little bit of excitement about politics, which is really hard to do because it's boring.
Yeah. I mean, hang on, but I'm going to just stop you there. But how could we make it more interesting, Tom? For young people my age, it seems like a boring topic, but I don't understand why, because in the Isle of Man, it's different than the UK because it's so small and you can make a change if you do vote in the correct person. But the amount of people my age that don't have any interest are just like, well, it doesn't really affect me. Well, actually, it sort of does, doesn't it?
And that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I want to get people involved. I don't care what their views are. I'm not trying to, change people's opinion. It's down to the electorate to vote who they want to vote in. But it's about giving the electorate choice and saying to people, have the confidence, give it a shot. You might only get 5 votes, but you're not going to change it by not going forward.
Yeah, exactly, and you'll learn you'll learn in the process.
So back to the question, how do we get young people involved? I think it's just conversations. It's talking. It's demystifying what politics is and how it works, and telling them that they can do it. Jeff have just done a campaign 30 under 30.
Yeah.
Look at the talent that we've got on the island.
I was there. It was pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah. Just what you're doing with this podcast and getting yourself out there and changing the dialogue and giving people a voice.
Yeah, and that's why I liked it, or that's what sprang to mind for me about that. Is it a Facebook page, so to speak, a discussion group sort of thing that people can discuss on there, or is it purely the Fresh Start Isle of Man? Is that just on Facebook?
So at the moment, it's just a page on Facebook. At this point, it's about starting the conversation and how it evolves, whether that's through Discord, whether that's through Facebook, whether that's through face-to-face meetings, whether it's meetups and whatever works to get people talking.
And that's it, isn't it? It's providing a place where people can discuss freely about their own opinions, but not come across like they're whinging or moaning. That can be quite tricky,
especially online, because I think there is a tendency for people to moan on online.
Definitely, they're definitely becoming frustrated, aren't they?
Yeah, and it tends to be the same faces that don't really want to do anything about it or put themselves forward. So it's also kind of getting rid of that mentality so that people aren't scared to speak up and give their opinions and do what they want to do. There's an impressive young politician that's just come into Onken, I think, as a commissioner, who's only 18, 19.
Yes, yeah, female.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't remember her name.
Caucus.
That's the one.
Caucus.
Yeah. And it's just encouraging more people to get involved like that.
Yeah, definitely. She obviously cares about the place she lives.
Absolutely.
And it's extremely important. And Fresh Start Isle of Man could potentially help the communication for many people. But I'd like to just pick in a little bit more about Fresh Start Isle of Man now and talk about who's involved and what are the actual goals that you see with it now looking forward. Obviously, you spoke quite briefly, covering a little bit of topics and getting to know one another and along those sort of lines. But I'm really quite interested in see what actually are your goals for this, because it started up as just something small, and like you said before off air, it's starting to grow a little bit now.
Yeah, I mean, the other people that are involved, it's really down to them to kind of work out how much they want to kind of let people know who they are and things like that, because some of them are involved with government at the moment, some of them are working for various departments in government or other areas. So I'll leave that down to them to kind of step up when they see fit. Some of them are talking about running potentially as MHKs in the
Okay.
in the not too distant, 14 months time. But the goals really, it's not about forming a party. I think party politics on the island just isn't going to work.
Okay, why?
Because I think you've got too small of a population. If we dig into how party politics would potentially work on the island, and there's a couple of groups that are trying to start this up at the moment. There's a couple of success. Yeah,
I've seen a Green Party initiative. I think
there's a Green Party, Lib Vannin, have been going for a while. Manx Labour Party. There's a couple of newcomers coming at the moment that are trying to start things up. And I think the problem is you've got somewhere in the region of 65,000 voters, and you've got quite a big demographic in that voting population. So if you wanted to get a functional party that was going to work and make the difference that you wanted it to make and get somebody elected as chief minister, let's face it, that's the goal of a party, right?
Yeah.
You're going to need to get, in the next 14 months, not even that, 10 months, you're going to need to establish your name, get your brand out there, let people know what you're thinking, get probably 18 candidates because you're realistically not going to get them all voted in, fundraise, get the candidates known, then get them elected in, and then if you don't get a majority of 12, 13 candidates, you've still not made the change that you want, so you've got a load of backbenchers.
Yeah.
It's an almost impossible task in 14 months to get to that position, even if you start today.
So a party then, if there was to be, say there was 3 parties in the government house, is that possible? 3 different parties all in there? Like, so say 4 people who are all in the same party were from, one was Onken, one was Maloo and Arby and Castertown, one was Douglas. Are those 3 linking together and identifying in the same party? Is that what a party is? Or is a party an incorporation of different type of people, but one person is leading it?
It's people with the same mandate, the same beliefs, all operating under the same shared manifesto. So the typical kind of thing that people will be aware of in the UK is the 3-party system traditionally: Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of outliers here and there that appear and don't. Yeah. What's Farage's party at the moment that's coming along? But yeah, Reform. They're making waves at the moment. But yeah, and in the UK, that's what you've got. So you've got your conservative thinking people that go to the Conservatives. They'll vote for whatever the local MP is under that belief system.
Mm-hmm.
Your Labour Party will vote for that. And in the UK, you've got 650 MPs, so it's quite different to what it is over here.
It's much smaller scale here, isn't it?
Yeah, so to realistically have a party with a shared manifesto, shared beliefs, you need to convince enough of the population on the Isle of Man to vote in 12 of your candidates across the whole island. Why
12?
Because that takes Comyn. Council of Ministers.
Ah, okay.
So the 12, would probably be 13 actually mathematically, but that then means that you can pick the Chief Minister, and then the Chief Minister can pick the Council of Ministers, which gives them voting rights basically across everything that happens.
That is not. I don't think that is what we want, is it? One party creating all the ideas.
No, and I think the dangerous thing about that is, let's say that there's a lot of apathy at the moment, and somehow you get someone that's really nationalist that comes in and goes, we want to do this thing that on paper sounds great at the moment. We want to do whatever. And they get in, they get Chief Minister, and everybody's kind of thinking the same thing. That's the mandate for the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on a small island, especially a place like the Isle of Man, there's a lot of different opinions, and people's opinions change. So
totally. All the time. People change constantly, don't they?
So the independent system, for me, I think is far better. You want a really balanced group of people that can have a discussion, talk to each other, and work out the best way forward for the island. Not for the party, but for the people of the island.
Okay, then. So if it's not a party initiative, that's how it would be called? Is it like a party group going in there and leading? Can you think of any other alterations that you would maybe make to the system off the top of your head? Obviously, you know how it works.
That's a 15-year plan. The system is for me not not great on the Isle of Man. The whole Comyn system of shared responsibility, which is Comyn going to a secret room, have a chat, and work out how all 12 of them have got to vote. So you essentially have all of the Council of Ministers. Sorry, I keep saying 12, it's 10, isn't it? But the Council of Ministers votes together on various things. So they have this shared responsibility, which makes it very hard for the backbench, who are not in Council of Ministers, to say, actually, we don't like that idea. It's pretty terrible. We're all going to vote against it. You only need one or two people to actually join the Council of Ministers and say, so it's not hard to swing a vote.
So how would you alter it then? If that doesn't work, what would you do to improve it?
I think shared responsibility in such a small cabinet is not a great idea because the maths just doesn't work. If you're in the cabinet in the UK and you've got, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but 22 ministers in cabinet against 650 MPs, you have a reasonable chance if something terrible comes out of it and people don't agree with it of going, do you know what? We don't like that as a group of MPs. We're going to vote against it. And we saw it happen last week where Starmer was made to make some pretty big changes to his welfare thing. The parliamentary system worked. That would be almost impossible on the island at the moment because if Comyn says that it's going to happen, more than two people say, I support that outside of Comyn, you've essentially passed it. Okay,
so then if you went to people taking full responsibility for the decision, so rather than a group responsibility, a shared responsibility, it's individuals and they say and vote and people can see is that what you mean by people can see who's actually said yes and who's actually said no?
I mean,
people take full responsibility?
You can already see who's said yes and no because the votes are made public, but because of the system at the moment with the shared responsibility, if you're in that Council of Ministers, you have to vote with Council of Ministers on certain things. So you're going to get the 10 people in the Council of Ministers saying yes because that's what they've collaboratively agreed.
Yeah.
You only need two people outside of Council of Ministers then to say yes, and three.
And
then
that's the majority.
That's the majority. So it's really hard to go against that.
Do you think that needs bringing down smaller?
Yeah, I think
to mitigate that sort of to vote outside of the Council of Ministers, because that isn't thinking about that. Hang on, that is crazy actually. That the Council of Ministers get pretty much majority vote, and it only takes two more to swing it. That's bananas.
It's the system.
That is bananas. Actually, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
I didn't actually realize that.
And it makes sense for certain things. National security, if that's ever a thing. We perhaps want a mechanism where the Council of Ministers can be a little bit more aggressive, perhaps, and say, we need to push this through quickly.
Yeah.
But for other things, it's quite a dangerous system to give that much power to the Chief Minister, which is what we essentially do at this point. And that's why I think, but that's why I think it's so important that we get people that can lead. And if that Council of Ministers, because we're not going to change the system anytime soon, it's and whether there's a will to do that or not isn't for me to decide. I can only comment on how the system works at the moment.
Yeah,
and my
man.
understanding
I
of it.
completely get you there.
But I think where we go wrong is I can almost imagine the situation at the moment within that kind of group of 24 MHKs at the moment planning for the next election. And I imagine there's already been deals done of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
You think?
Oh, 100%.
What makes you think that?
The way that Allinson's presenting himself, he's presenting himself more statesmanly at the moment. He's quite active in the press. He 100%, I can almost guarantee it, is already trying to make deals with people that he's friends with within that group of politicians and going, do you know what, I fancy running for Chief Minister next time round if I get voted in. Would you support me? And there'll be other people in that group that are doing it.
Is that allowed to happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's just politics.
Right, okay. That's quite interesting. Who else would you say would be up for running?
It wouldn't surprise me if Jane Paul Wilson doesn't put herself up.
Yeah. I think she would. Yeah, I think she would be okay. Like, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a political guy, but I do follow somewhat. And yeah, I think if people are wanting to run, they should damn right go for it, shouldn't they?
But I think the bigger system is, I think the biggest change to the system that I would like to see, and again, this is just pie in the sky, it's not going to happen anytime soon, is that any prospective MHKs should have to give their list of people that they would want to see running as chief minister, so that people can kind of see where their thoughts are, rather than it being a vote that's done after people get in within that group of 24.
Okay, let me just think about that.
So to put it back into UK kind of perspective, if you vote for the Conservative Party,
yeah,
you know that the leader of the Conservative Party is going to be the next Prime Minister if your party wins. Likewise, you vote for Labour, you've got a fairly good chance of seeing, Keir Starmer or Rishi Sunak, whichever one. That's going to be the next Prime Minister.
So we already know before we vote in.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I get you. So we don't actually know who's going to be, once we voted for our MHKs, we don't actually know who's going to be voted in as...
No, we vote in 24 people.
Yeah.
And then it's down to that 24 people to then go into a room and, it's almost like a conclave, isn't it? It's almost like secret room. Everyone kind of works out people put themselves forward, and then they get their support, and then they all vote between themselves on who the next leader is.
Do you think we should vote individually as public? Who should be the chief minister?
Yeah, I think the public should have more of a say, and if not individually, they should at least have the option of knowing who the candidates that they're putting forward in their local area would vote in out of the prospective candidates.
I see what you're saying there. So how could they change that then, in the sense of letting the public vote for who the chief minister is, so that we have so the public as well as the council of ministers have control of who, or MHK, sorry, have control of who actually is leading the island? Because that is a great point, actually, Tom, and I'd like to dig in on that, because that would be one of the topics that maybe the public are sort of noticing through social media and are talking about on social media, the fact that we don't have any power. We can vote who the MHKs are, but we haven't got any power who's leading us.
No, and but the argument is that is a representative democracy, and that's what we have. But yeah, I think could we have a separate election shortly after the election to kind of put forward who's the chief minister? Maybe there's a cost element to that, and there's also voter apathy. Do we really, as a voting public, have the patience for that?
Yeah, I don't know if we do. I don't know if people would get behind it, would they?
No, and it's hard enough to get people out to vote anyway. But I do think that the easiest way to do it would be for people to say, look, on their manifesto, or on their Facebook page or whatever that is, to communicate prior to the election, if I get voted in, and if these people get voted in, this is my list of people that I would see as chief minister.
I quite like that.
And then at least people would have an idea of what they're voting for, because I think there's a real kind of belief that you're voting for your local MHK that's going to kind of come in and improve your area, and that's true to a degree, but you're also voting for the government that are running the country, the Treasury, setting tax rates, the Department for Education, all these Department for Infrastructure.
Yeah, totally.
That's the responsibility that we're giving them. So I think there is that kind of, yes, you're voting for the local candidate that might come in and fix a playground or do something like that, but you're also voting for the tax rate, the infrastructure, what's happening around the island. And it's a bigger job than I think people consider.
So do you think Fresh Start on your Facebook page, what sort of followers are you up to now? I haven't checked recently in the last few weeks, but
it's about 700, 750.
Okay, that's a movement. That's nearly 1% of the population, essentially, which is a good amount. You can have influence with 1%.
It's a good start.
It's a good start. So could you hold polls? Could you put opinions up on there about these messages that you're trying to talk about, to try and gain a bit of traction, to maybe make them bring a bit of evidence forward and say, okay, rather than just a conversation like us, you can bring the facts forward and be like, okay, well, here's what people actually think. There's solid evidence there. And then have a discussion off from that.
It's not what I'm trying to do. I don't want to become a political commentator or try to steer people's opinions. What I want to do is get them voting. I want to get people to go, do you know what? Yeah, I've complained a few too many times about the representation that we've got, and I could probably do a better job. So, do you know what? I'm going to stand up and I'm going to run, and I'm going to put my thoughts forward. I'm going to write a manifesto, and I'm going to go ahead and see if anything comes of it.
I think that's good, Tom, because linking back to the rugby there a bit, with a team, like and competitiveness to get into a team or to get into a position of likes of the MHK, it's important that there is competition, because if you've just got a team of 15 people who know they're going to get selected for a rugby squad every week, they're never going to try to improve. Whereas if you've got a second team and a third team of lads who are all ladies who are all trying to fight for one position in that first team, that brings everyone's levels up, doesn't it?
100%.
Is that the way you're sort of looking at it? Because that's the way I would look at it.
Yeah.
More people running means standards have to be lifted.
Yeah, people start to worry about their £80,000 a year MHK job, don't they? A little bit more if they've got competent, reasonable candidates that can stand against them. So yeah, I absolutely get that competition out there and get people proving that they can do a better job.
It's a pretty penny, though, isn't it?
It's not a bad little earner.
It's a pretty penny, that. I think they're, as long as they're doing a good job, I think they're definitely worth it. However, yeah, everyone's got their own opinions on that, haven't they? So you would never think about standing up for it yourself? If you're telling other people to, would you never think of having a crack at it? I know you did mention that you don't want to be political, but surely with such a great interest in the subject, you'd maybe, and trying to encourage so many people, would you not think, bugger it?
Yeah,
I'll have a go.
Never say never, but I think my name doesn't fit. I'm not Manx born. That immediately kind of puts me at a disadvantage. And yeah, I'm happy in the private sector at the moment. But if there was enough kind of demand there, and people kind of said, yeah, you'd be good at it, never say never. But it isn't something that I've really put a lot of thought into at the moment. And
yeah.
I've got a great team that I work with on a daily basis. Would I feel like I was letting them down by kind of moving into politics? Maybe to some degree.
Yeah.
So yeah, never say never, but it's not high on the list.
Right. That's interesting, because it's difficult to push other people to do something that you're not sure if you'd be willing to do yourself at this present time, isn't it? So trying to portray that message over and, like you say, get people rallied up is difficult. So what techniques would you use to get people to start doing that, to start putting themselves forward? Because we've spoke greatly about what the government is, greatly about the aim of Fresh Start Isle of Man, but I'm now interested in, with the page, what techniques would you use to rally people up?
I think a lot of it's just conversations. I've had a lot of conversations over the last couple of weeks with a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life. And I've had one that I did completely screw up because I forgot about it. So sorry, Steph, for that one. Left her sitting in Noah yesterday.
Oh dear.
Yes.
One of them.
Not my finest moment, but yeah. Shout out to Steph.
Yeah.
But no, look, I think at the moment it's about getting those conversations started, and the more we can talk about it, the more we can demystify politics, the more we can kind of give people that head start to say, this is what's expected on the polling trail. This is what's going to happen when you're out canvassing. These are the techniques that the career politicians already know that you maybe don't know about, or let's just get a group of people that can support you, whether that's social media people, whether that's, copywriters, people that can use AI to help out. A dirty topic at the moment for a lot of people.
Yeah, why do you think AI is a dirty topic?
I think people have got a lot of suspicion about it. My background is in tech, so I embrace it a lot more than most. But I think there's a lot of suspicion about it, and I think a lot of people don't really know what it is.
Yeah, I'm starting to get into it at a greater scale. I was never techie at all, and probably in the last 6 months I've really started to use it more frequently. And I'm not sure, I don't know the overall opinion on the Isle of Man with it, because I think it is a scary topic, and I have not spoke about it here on the podcast before, but I'm interested because you're in tech. Can you break down a little bit about how people can use that in their day-to-day life? I know it's not your expertise, but people might be listening who've never used it before.
I mean, completely opposite. AI is something that I've been working in for...
Oh, really?
12 years now.
Oh, you are tech, you are AI.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, there's multiple ways that you can get into it, and I think there's the obvious ways, which is kind of your chat GPT, which is great for, give it an idea and ask it to reformat some text, or give it an opinion and ask it to come back with some research on it. And it does a reasonable job. I think people don't trust it, though, because it has a tendency to do this thing called hallucinate.
Okay, what's that mean?
So, without going kind of really deep dive on what
we're
AI
in a bit
is,
of a rabbit hole here anyway.
Yeah. This could go deep quite quickly, but I think people assume that AI at the moment is actually intelligent, and it isn't as intelligent as people maybe suspect. It's essentially something called a neural network, which is a mathematical algorithm that predicts the next word in a sentence. So you give it a series of words, and it'll take that mathematical formula, and it'll then break it down, and it'll work out, because you've asked me this sequence of words, this is what I predict the response to be. So it's not actually giving you a necessarily well-considered response to what you're asking it. It's using a statistical model to say this is the most likely response that it could be. So it's trained on all of this data on the internet, more or less the whole internet, and it works out the mathematical sort of probability of the next word being this or the next series of words.
Okay.
So it's not really kind of giving you that response that you maybe expect it to give you.
Yeah.
Which is where this hallucination thing comes in, where statistically the next word maybe looks like it could be that one, but it's not really correcting itself to say that it maybe isn't that one, so you get a wrong answer ultimately.
And you think people are overusing it?
I think people
too much trust in it, sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a little bit too much trust in it at the moment, I think. And I think people are trying to use it to be a little bit too clever rather than just using it for the things that it's maybe meant to do. But I think where it does get interesting and where I work a lot is something called vertical AI.
Okay.
So
elaborate on that.
So you've got all these chatbots like, the big one, Chat GPT, Grok, that you've heard of at the moment, which is the Elon Musk one that's allegedly been quite racist.
Yeah.
Now, vertical AI is training the system on data that is accurate.
Right.
So a great example of this, and somewhere where the NHS is going to just blow the rest of the world away in the next 5-10 years, hopefully. If you've got, let's say, the medical records of everybody in the UK, all stored centrally. You've got the record from cradle to the grave, so the first blood test they ever had, the medication that they've had from 0 years old, how they were born, any complexities with that birth. You then got CT scans from when they broke their arm at 3, or X-rays, or MRI scans from when they had a problem with their chest. They got pneumonia, all the way through to when they had a few scans at age 16 because they got hit by a really bad tackle in a rugby game.
Yeah.
Then you go fast forward, they get to 30 and they get, God forbid, a diagnosis of cancer.
Yeah.
Feed all of those scans into a system, an AI system, and say, look for patterns. So it's going to look for the patterns in that patient, but then do that with the 65 million people in the UK and the 100 million people that have lived in the UK and died since the NHS was created. You suddenly have a case profile of every single person in the UK with a known case outcome. So if you can train an AI to say, we know that this person had this case profile, we know that they died of whatever. Look back over those scans and compare it to other people that died of that outcome, that we know died of that outcome because we got the autopsy. And then let the computer look for all of these different patterns.
Do you think the pattern recognition from AI is astronomically better than human pattern recognition?
I think it's getting there. I think at the moment you still need a human to look at it. You still need a trained doctor to go, okay, that's been flagged up for my attention. Does this match with my training? But I don't think it'll be long with the right amount of training on a system like that to suddenly go boom, and to start finding things like cancer, dementia, a hell of a lot sooner.
Yeah, and sort of what causes it, maybe, or trends in people who have got such a thing.
Yeah, exactly. You suddenly get blood tests through the formative years of someone's life, and throughout all of that case history,
That's
you start looking for proteins and different genetics and things like that in that.
Crazy, and that's what you work on day to day.
I'm not on the medical side.
I mean AI in
but
general.
AI in
sort of
general,
thing.
yeah. More vertical AI than the kind of large language models that everyone's getting excited about. But yeah.
Yeah, right, man. That's really interesting. And I don't know if you're informed about the Isle of Man, but does the Isle of Man use any form of AI at a scale? Like,
no,
should they?
Now you're getting me on my high horse.
Could they capitalize on it more? I don't know. That's not an area I'm familiar with.
I think they could, but I think Digital Isle of Man are wasting an opportunity. I think there's a term that we use in tech, peak hype cycle. And what that means is every now and then something comes along that everyone thinks is a great idea, and everyone jumps on it. Everyone piles in. You'll have heard of blockchain, cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
That was a peak hype cycle.
Okay.
AI is now reaching that peak hype cycle where everyone's getting excited and everyone's jumping in. And every now and then you find something that's phenomenally exciting and it goes somewhere. Most of them fizzle out, and eventually they kind of find, water finds its level, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So eventually they'll find a level, and like blockchain is going to be around forever. There's certain use cases where blockchain is a great technology.
Yeah.
Not most of the use cases that people were using it for 2 years ago. AI probably going to be in the same position. Certainly for the large language models, it's going to hit a point and then it's maybe going to stagnate and people are going to learn how it works. And I think Digital Isle of Man have a habit at the moment of just grabbing the next big thing and trying to run with it rather than trying to get a sustainable local digital economy.
So what is a sustainable local digital economy?
Attract engineers over here. We've got great internet connections. I mean, some people maybe don't agree with that, but I think the fiber network that Manx Utilities have put in place, Manx Telecom have put in place, is great. The tax rate is great for people in tech because they're generally earning a reasonable amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
So the island's got everything from that side of things that could attract people. The big thing that we're missing at the moment is how do we get those people over here? And how do we get them to stay, more importantly?
So so that's an issue that spans not just in the business world, like tech world or engineers. That's something that the Isle of Man is talking about. All ages, really, especially young people. How can we keep young people here? How can we keep people to the Isle of Man and draw people to the Isle of Man? And as someone who's came here and now stays here, what do you think drew you to the Isle of Man?
I mean, for me, it was my wife had friends on the island, so we'd visited a few times, and we'd been in the same. Well, I'd been in Leeds for 32 years, something like that.
Good lord.
Good night out, but you get cabin fever eventually. So I was ready to move. We didn't really know where. This was somewhere that we'd visited a few times and just fell in love with. We got plans to have kids, and it's such a great place for kids.
Yes,
for the most part. But has anyone actually asked young people what they need here? It's not a conversation that seems to pop up too often. And my team are generally under 40, quite well paid on the scale of kind of salaries.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have that conversation with them, then none of them want to take it up. And cinema. They're young, digital, native. They quite like a cinema.
Yeah.
Bowling alley. The only bowling alley in Douglas is 4 miles out of town on the road out of Oncon.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a 75, 80 mile per hour road at the best of times, and you asking kids to go up there and get home. There. So I think we've got a retention problem with young people on the island. I think what's the latest statistic? 60% of people that come to the island each year are under 40, but at the same time, 60% of people that leave are under 40.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of recycling the same numbers.
Exactly, and especially with the politics side of things, that is something that certainly, in my opinion, needs to be looked at. Really, I mean, it's something that I'd push. Like being born and bred here, family are all born and bred here. I love the place, but how can, like you say, how can we attract people to stay or come back after university or come back after education? It's a real grey area, in my opinion, and hopefully people like yourself can start pushing that out there, or pushing, not being a speaker, but certainly bringing to light maybe certain problems. I don't know, not commentating, but having discussions would be positive, I think.
Absolutely. Can we partner with universities for training programs for people, or? But at the same time, it's grassroots, isn't it? It's how do we get businesses to come over here and set up that people want to work for, that have the cool jobs, because the tech industry on the island in particular, it's okay, but it's not breaking any ground. And I think part of that is a problem of our own making. We go massively off tangent here, but
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter really. We just gone down a rabbit hole.
But the in the UK, a lot of tech startups benefit from something called the EIS fund, which is an investment fund where high net worth individuals can invest relatively small amounts, and it goes towards startups. And the benefit for them is they get tax breaks. So if the startup does well and it grows, they can make a decent amount of money with lower tax. Great, everyone wins. How would that transfer to the island though? Because startups need capital. We give the super wealthy people a tax cap. So where's the incentive for people that have got the money and have got the capital to say, do you know what, we'll have a bit of a gamble on a startup that can bring engineers, can bring prosperity to the island, rather than just chucking it into the FTSE 500 or a fund like that, and just grow their wealth steadily. And I think we need to look at how can we incentivize capital to be spent on the island and help fund startups and help to get that digital economy moving, rather than the whole kind of we're going to license e-gaming, or we're going to license data stewardship, or whatever it is that they're calling it at the moment.
Right, yeah, no, that's a good point, Tom. Like, we say we're off tangent, whereas these are probably things that I don't think I've ever had a conversation about people about tech on the Isle of Man. You're certainly into the Fresh Start Isle of Man, which is the main topic, but if you've got opinions on certainly that sort of, it's your expertise. I mean, good Lord, that's important information, in my opinion. We need to be moving with the times on the Isle of Man, don't we? And that's the sort of, I think that brings us to a nice way to start rounding this up, Tom. We've had a very productive conversation, in my opinion, and hopefully, I hope the best for you, man. Like, it's something that needs to be done. It's an alternative tool. Fresh Start Isle of Man could be used as a tool for information or anything of the likes, and it's doing something different. It's doing something to breaking the mold. And where can people find you before we wrap this thing up? Where can people find just Fresh Start Isle of Man?
Fresh Start Isle of Man. Drop me a message on there. More than happy to meet for a coffee, or whatever gets the conversation going. Be great to do a couple of fireside chats around the island with people if they're interested. And I'd like to speak to sixth formers or college students that are kind of maybe not sure on politics, and do some kind of chats with them and really kind of demystify politics.
100%, dude. And that brings us quite nicely into our last question, which I think I'm going to have. I think I already know the answer for, but at the end of every podcast, we always ask the same question. And that is, if you could change or improve one thing about the Isle of Man, what would it be and why? Now, we've covered quite a few topics of things we'd like to choose, but have a second to think about one that if you could change something tomorrow, for example, what would you change?
Tomorrow, I would remove the competition that exists between Manx and non-Manx born people.
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that.
No, I think there's a lot of you're a come over, you're a stopover. It's not you're not part of the community. That still goes on around the place. And yeah, I think so. There's a lot of your face doesn't fit or your surname's not quite the right one. And I think there's a lot of that goes on still. And I don't think it needs to be a competition. I don't think people need to keep referencing the whole, 60% of people on the island are not Manx anymore, or whatever that number is. We're all here to build a successful community, and we all want the best for the Isle of Man. It's a place that people have chosen to settle, and as long as people aren't kind of disrespecting the island's kind of beauty and traditions and things like that, let's move with the times, and let's just embrace the community around us.
Definitely. We just don't want to. We just want to keep the Isle of Man. We want to keep moving with the times, which I totally agree with, and make the Isle of Man different and keep moving with the times, so that people are drawn here and not make us the same as the UK.
Absolutely.
Because that's what makes us special, is the fact we are different. We just have to work out where that different is moving forward to.
Absolutely.
And not moving in the same direction as the UK.
Manx solutions to Manx problems rather than following the UK every step of the way.
Totally agree. Thanks very much for coming on, Tom.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to see what people's reactions are to this conversation, and thank you very, very much. Good luck, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good luck. All good, Herb? Thanks, man.